Welcome to the Stepmom Side with Alicia, the podcast for stepmoms ready to create the life they want and one they actually have a say in. Here we talk all things stepmom life and just a little bit more. Leave the superficial conversations at the door and get ready for perspective shifts and actionable advice to help you on your way to creating the life you want, one step at a time. Hey there, welcome back to the Stepmom Side Podcast. I am your host, Alicia, and we're going to continue on with the theme of back to school stuff. If you're not back to school yet, you still have time. But if you are back to school, this one's going to be big for you because I want to talk to you about homework. More specifically, though, I want to talk to you about what happens when your stepchild's homework isn't getting done and somehow you become the person who cares about it the most. Maybe you're checking the school portal more often than your partner. Maybe you're reminding your stepchild about assignments. Maybe homework gets completed at your house, but not at the other house or not at their mom's house. Maybe the expectations are completely different between homes. Maybe your partner says, school is important, but yet you're the one checking deadlines, asking about missing schoolwork, finding supplies, limiting devices, and wondering why the project that's due tomorrow is being mentioned for the first time at 8:47 tonight. And if you're like me, maybe you've got yourself thinking, why do I care more about this homework than anyone else, than everyone else? If that sounds familiar, I want you to take a breath. You're not wrong for caring. You're not controlling, because that's a word that's used often, right? But you're not controlling because you want your stepchild to complete their work. You're not being unreasonable for believing children need structure and responsibility. Yeah, it's a lot easier to operate without it because the kids want none of that. But we know they absolutely desperately need that. And it's actually easier to operate within structure. But caring about your stepchild's education does not mean you have to become solely responsible for it. Those are two very different things. Homework can create conflict in any family, but blended families have extra layers. There may be different expectations between homes. Your stepchild may be moving between different schedules, routines, and levels of supervision. Their parents may have very different opinions about grades, missing work, and my favorite, how much help a child should receive on their homework. Maybe one helps them by critical thinking skills and the other one helps them by doing it for them. Anyway, back to the podcast and no more tangents for you. Their parents may have very different opinions about grades, missing work, and how much help a child should receive. And this one's a big one because one parent may help the child by coaching them through critical thinking. The other parent may help the child by doing the actual homework for them. Which one's actually helping? Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the actual podcast. And here you may be deeply involved in your stepchild's daily life without having the authority of being a parent. You may be expected to help out, but not allowed to enforce expectations. Something that I see very, very often, and it's very, very common. You may be asked to monitor homework, but your partner doesn't back you up when your stepchild resists. Or maybe nobody officially assigned homework duty to you at all. You just noticed it wasn't getting done, stepped in to help, as we do, and somehow became the family's unpaid academic coordinator. If we were paid for all the things that we do as a stepmom, we'd go on vacation together. Where would you go? Tell me. If you're listening to this, not right now, or maybe right now, just stop. Send me a message on Instagram or TikTok. I'm at Alicia, and just tell me hey, you know what? I was just listening to this week's podcast episode. Here's where I would go on my vacation if I got paid for all of the things that I did as a stepmom. I would probably go somewhere where it's warm, not hot, but warm, clear water, no responsibilities, send me away until I needed someplace cold and snowy and I could ski. Anyway, again, back to the podcast. Because apparently if you notice a problem it becomes yours. Very efficient system for everyone except for you. So today I want to help you decide what your homework rule should actually be. We're going to talk about the difference between helping and taking ownership, what to do when you seem to care more than your partner, and when stepping back may be healthier for you, your marriage, or your relationship, and your relationship with your stepchild. Here's something I tell stepmoms all the time in coaching calls. You can't care more than the parents. That's a lot easier said than done, right? Especially we see a problem and we decide that we're going to step in and we're going to help out and do all the things. But it's like, I'm the only one that sees the problems. No one else sees them, or no one else is willing to do anything about them. So let's talk about why homework becomes more than just homework. Why does homework become more than just homework? Homework looks fairly straightforward on paper, right? The school assigns it, your stepchild completes it, they turn it in, everyone moves on. Such an adorable theory. Wrong. Actually completing homework may require your stepchild to remember the assignment, bring home the correct materials, understand the instructions, manage their time, resist distractions, ask for help, actually complete the work, and then submit it correctly. So your stepchild may struggle with one or several parts of that process. They may not understand the material. They may feel overwhelmed. They may have trouble getting started. They may forget assignments or leave materials at the other house. They may be distracted by devices. They may avoid the work because they're afraid of getting it wrong. Or they may understand it perfectly well and simply prefer to do literally anything else. I mean, it's relatable to me. I'm like, we recently just got back from vacation and I'm like, all of the laundry is done, but all of our suitcases are downstairs. Some of them have things in them and I'm like, I am not motivated to undo them. I will literally do anything else, but I need to do that. And now that I've told you, I'm going to have to do that. But the reason matters because different problems need different kinds of support. So if your stepchild doesn't understand the work, another punishment may not help. If they understand the work but refuse to begin, explaining the instructions for the 5th time may not help. If assignments are being completed but never submitted, the issue may be organization rather than academics. So you don't need to diagnose your stepkid because we're also very, very good at that. But before you create another schedule, consequence, or color-coded chart, or family command center, because I love a family command center, try to identify the actual problem. Ask, what part of the process is breaking down? Does my stepchild need help understanding the work? Do they need help creating a routine? Is this an occasional problem or an ongoing problem? Is this something their parent or teacher needs to address? And most importantly, is this actually mine to manage? And that's such a big, big question to ask because it's really hard to say, no, it's not mine to manage and set it down and walk away. Because in our family, homework wasn't always completed. We also had different expectations between homes. And I monitored homework more closely than my husband did, especially when my stepson moved in full time because I was one that was here all the time. I was on it. But when you're the adult monitoring homework or schoolwork most closely, you become the person asking all the questions. Do you have homework? Did you finish it? Did you turn it in? What's your grade? Did you check the portal? When is that project due? Why are you playing a game if your homework isn't finished? Those questions usually come from a place of caring, especially, maybe not the one, did you check the portal? Because a lot of times I had already checked the portal and I already knew what the grade was. I already knew that the homework wasn't turned in or not. But I'm not going to be like, hey, so I saw this wasn't turned in. Hey, did you check the portal? Was it turned in? Was that updated? Blah, blah, blah. I could already see it. But you want your stepchild to succeed. You want them to learn responsibility. You can see how one unfinished assignment can turn into several missing assignments. Then suddenly everyone's trying to repair 6 weeks of school on a Sunday night. And you're like, yeah, I tried pointing this out weeks ago and everyone was like, it's not a big deal. And then now all of a sudden it's a big deal.
But when you monitor homework more closely than your partner does, something else can happen. You become the face of every academic expectation. Your stepchild begins seeing you as the strict one. Welcome to the club. Hello, my name is Alicia. I am the vice president here. Name tag, I can give you one as well if you would like. But your partner may also start seeing you as too invested. And you may start seeing yourself as the only adult who cares. Tell me that's you too, right? So now everyone's frustrated. And the original issue, unfinished homework, is barely even the main problem anymore. The bigger problem is that nobody clearly decided who was responsible for what. I can't tell you that every stepmom should help with homework. I also can't tell you that every stepmom should step back and leave everything to the parents. Your role completely depends on your family. It should depend also on your relationship with your stepchild, how involved you are in their daily life, and whether your partner gives you meaningful support and authority. But start with your relationship with your stepchild. Does your stepchild already accept help from you? Can you work together without every assignment becoming a power struggle? Do you have enough trust between the two of you for your guidance to be useful? If your relationship is still developing or already strained, please listen to me and hear me when I tell you this, because I'm going to hold your hand and say, becoming the primary homework enforcer is going to do more damage than it is going to do good. Ask me how I know. But next, look at how involved you are day to day. Does your stepchild live in your house full time? Are you home with them during homework hours? Are you regularly responsible for the after-school routine? Or are you being asked to manage assignments even though you're not given the information or the access that you need? Finally, look at your partner's support. Does your partner genuinely support your involvement? Will your partner communicate the expectations? Big question, will they enforce consequences? Another big question, do they back you up when your stepchild resists? Does your partner agree with you privately, then disappear the second the child gets upset? That's a big one, because if so, we have bigger fish to fry than just homework, right? Your homework role should not be based on guilt. It should not be based on who notices the missing assignments first. And it also should not be based on the assumption that just because you're capable of managing it doesn't mean you should. So you can help with homework without owning the entire process. Okay? So helping is not the same as owning. Helping may look like answering a question, or reading through instructions, quizzing your stepchild before a test, or helping them organize a project. You may offer encouragement or create a quiet space for them to work, maybe set up a desk for them in their room, or give them a designated spot at the dining room table before or after dinner, whatever it looks like. Owning homework is different. When you own it, you are checking every assignment. You're monitoring the portal. You're remembering every deadline. You're making sure materials travel between homes. You're repeatedly reminding your stepchild. You are emailing teachers. You are enforcing consequences. You are making completed work, or making sure completed work is actually submitted. And when something goes wrong, you feel as though you have failed. You can be willing to help without agreeing to own all of that. But be specific with your partner about what help means. So you might say, I'm happy to answer questions when I'm available, but I don't want to monitor the school portal, even though secretly, we know that you're going to. Or you can say, I'm willing to help create a homework routine, but I need you to communicate and enforce it. Or you can say, I'll remind them once, but I'm not going to spend the entire evening chasing them. Please don't. Sit down. Let somebody else do it. Clear agreements prevent a helpful gesture from becoming your permanent job. And one of the hardest things you may face is feeling like you care more about your stepchild's schoolwork than your partner does. So what happens if you care more than your partner or the other house? You see the missing assignments. You see where the pattern is heading. You know that if nobody intervenes now, the problem may become much harder to fix later. Remember earlier we were talking about how now we're trying to catch up 6 weeks worth of homework on a Sunday night? Yeah, you know that it's going to become that much harder to fix later. Your partner seems relaxed, so you step in. You check the portal. You remind your stepchild. You create the schedule. You enforce the routine. You become much more anxious, and much more involved. Meanwhile, guess what's happening? Your partner has even less reason to step up because you're already handling everything. Thank you very much. And eventually what happens? You become resentful. If you are more invested in homework than your stepchild's parent, I want you to pause and ask yourself this. Why am I carrying this? Ask a few more questions too. Did my partner ask me to take responsibility? Did I clearly agree? What am I afraid will happen if I stop monitoring everything? Am I helping my stepchild or protecting the other people in my house from the consequences of not handling their responsibilities? Overfunctioning, that's what that is. Am I trying to prove that I'm a good stepmom? Is this role strengthening or damaging my relationships? You can care deeply about your stepchild and still decide their parent needs to take the lead. This isn't abandonment, that's role clarity. You also can't force your partner to care about homework exactly the way you do by taking over. You guys are different people. You have different personalities. You can explain your concerns. You can discuss how missing work affects your home. You can decide what support you're willing to offer. But you can't care enough for every single adult involved. If your partner believes homework should be completed before screens, friends, or activities, your partner needs to communicate that expectation. Your partner should not say, your stepmom wants you to finish your homework. She says you can't play games. Alicia is upset about your grade. No. We are not doing that. If your partner agrees with the expectation, it doesn't only belong to you. Your partner can say, in our home, schoolwork needs to be completed before gaming. Or, we expect you to check your assignments before making plans. Or, I'll follow up with you about the missing work by insert deadline. Your partner needs to own the expectation instead of using your concern to explain why the child can't do what they want. Because that makes you the bad guy, right? And if your relationship is already strained with your stepchild, it's just going to get that much worse. And then everyone is shocked when your relationship becomes strained. If your partner doesn't share your expectations, you need to discuss that privately. You can't successfully enforce a household rule or expectation your partner doesn't support. You'll spend your energy defending it. Your stepchild will keep challenging it. And your partner will undermine it through their words or their silence. So homework expectations may be completely different between homes too. Obviously, they can be completely different between you and your partner. They also can be completely different between homes. Let's say that you and your partner are relatively on the same page, but the expectations are different between homes. You may require homework to be completed before screens. The other house may allow your stepchild to manage it independently. You may check the portal regularly. She may not. You may expect missing work to be completed immediately. She may take a much more relaxed approach. Consistency between homes can be helpful, but honestly, it's not always possible. You can control or you can't control how homework is handled in their other house. Your partner can communicate important concerns. The parents can exchange necessary information, but you may still need a separate routine at your house. You can say, at our house, we check assignments before gaming. At our house, school materials go in this spot. At our house, you can take a break after school. And homework begins at 5. Keep the focus on your home. Avoid saying, this is why nothing gets done at your mom's. She doesn't care about your grades. You always come back here behind. She always, lets you do whatever she wants. We're not doing that. That doesn't help anything. It doesn't help anyone. Because when you criticize their mom, your stepchild may feel like they have to defend her. And now the conversation isn't about homework anymore. It's about loyalty. And honestly, your stepchild does not have to agree that your system is better. And they might not even think that it's better. You just need a reasonable routine in your home, and you need your partner to support it. So let's now talk about age-appropriate ownership that your stepchildren can have over their homework. Your stepchild may need help, but they also need opportunities to develop responsibility. If you remember every assignment organize every material, monitor every minute, and rescue every forgotten project, they may complete more work today because they have somebody that's thinking for them. The overfunctioning, remember? But they may not develop the skills they need to manage school independently. Age-appropriate responsibility may include checking the homework platform, writing assignments in a planner, packing the correct materials, choosing when to complete work within an agreed upon time frame. Remember, okay, here you can relax for a little bit, but schoolwork starts at 5. And then we work on it until dinner. If you have stuff after dinner, then we finish it after dinner. But choosing when to complete work within an agreed upon time frame. Asking for help before the night an assignment is due. Charging the school device. Submitting completed assignments. Their responsibility will depend on their age, skills, and needs. A younger child will need more direct help. An older child may still need structure, but they can begin owning more of the process. Instead of you immediately taking over, ask, what is your plan for finishing this? What do you need to get started? Which part do you understand? Where are you stuck? What needs to go in your backpack for tomorrow? This is amazing because then the critical thinking, I'm so big on critical thinking because I want you to be able to think for yourself. What needs to go in your backpack for tomorrow? What's on the agenda for tomorrow? Do you have a test? Is that project due? Okay, well then, what needs to go in there? Let's think about this. So you're supporting their problem solving without doing the thinking for them, right? The critical thinking part of it. Let's do this. So the goal here isn't to say, this is your problem now, good luck. The goal is to move from managing everything for them to teaching them how to manage it. When you discover missing work, your instinct, what the heck was that? Your instinct may be to immediately fix it. You contact people, you find the instructions, you reorganize the evening, you cancel plans, you remind your stepchild 17 times. You become more emotionally activated than they are. But if every forgotten assignment becomes your emergency, your stepchild may never experience appropriate responsibility for their work. Sometimes your response can simply be, what's your plan for handling this? If they're like, oh my God, I have a blah tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. What's your plan for handling this? Maybe your stepchild needs to contact the teacher. Maybe they need to complete the work during an available period at school. Maybe they receive a lower grade. Maybe they need to explain the missing assignment to their parent. Safe, reasonable consequences can teach more than another adult rescue mission. Please believe me when I tell you this. But of course, this requires nuance, right? Stepping back doesn't necessarily mean abandoning a child who genuinely doesn't understand the work or lacks the skills needed to manage it. But support does not always mean removing the consequences. So before you rescue, ask, is this my responsibility? Is this my stepchild's responsibility? Is this my partner's responsibility? And what would happen if I didn't fix it? Or would the consequence be unsafe or merely uncomfortable? Discomfort isn't always a crisis. Sometimes it's where responsibility begins. If every interaction you have with your stepchild is about missing homework, grades, devices, and reminders, your relationship may start feeling entirely corrective. Your stepchild sees you and expects a question about school. You see your stepchild and immediately think about the portal. There's no room left for connection. I'm big on connection before correction. So this matters because your relationship with your stepchild is different from the parent-child relationship. It may develop more slowly. It may be more vulnerable to repeated conflict. That doesn't mean you can never enforce consequences, but you and your partner need to consider whether the current arrangement is sacrificing your relationship with your stepchild. Ask yourself this. I feel like I've had you ask yourself a million questions in this podcast episode, but ask yourself these questions. Am I having more corrective interactions than positive ones? Does my stepchild experience me primarily as the person who monitors them? That's fun. Is my partner asking me to carry conflict they're avoiding? Would stepping back give this relationship room to breathe? You can care about your stepchild's education without making academic monitoring the foundation of your relationship. And it's really hard, especially if education is very, 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 very important to you, and maybe not so much to their mom or your partner. Maybe more so to your partner, but not their mom, but like you're the one that cares the most. Don't wait until you're angry about an unfinished assignment to discuss this. Choose a calm time and talk about the overall system. So instead of saying, you don't care about school, try, I've noticed I'm monitoring homework more closely than you are. I'm becoming resentful and I don't want my relationship with your child to revolve around unfinished work. Or, I'm willing to help with homework, but I don't want to be responsible for checking every assignment and enforcing every consequence. Or, we need to decide what our homework expectations are and who will communicate them. Or, if I'm expected to supervise homework, I need you to support the routine when there's resistance. Or, last one, I don't want you to present these as my rules. If we agree on an expectation, I need you to own it too. Then go through all of the responsibilities individually. Who checks the portals? Who communicates with teachers? Who helps when your stepchild doesn't understand something? Who follows up on missing work? What is your stepchild expected to manage? What are you genuinely willing to do? What happens if the work isn't completed? And here's the thing. Don't stop at, we'll both help. That sounds very collaborative and mature. But it's also very, 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 very vague. We'll both help often means whoever notices the problem first handles it. And have a wild guess about who that will be, my friend. Definitely not your partner. So decide what you're willing to own. Your role doesn't have to be all or nothing. I know it's really hard to not be all or nothing, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You may decide to participate in some parts of homework and step back from others. You might say, I'm willing to provide a quiet place for homework. I can help when they ask a specific question. I'll supervise homework on these 2 evenings. I'm not willing to monitor the school portal. I won't argue about missing assignments. I'm not responsible for emailing teachers. I'll offer one reminder, but I won't repeatedly chase anymore. I need you to handle the consequences. A boundary doesn't tell your partner or stepchild what they must do. It defines what you will and will not take responsibility for. And once you set that boundary, your partner may manage homework differently from the way you would. They may not monitor it as closely. Your stepchild may forget something. They may receive a consequence. That can be pretty uncomfortable to watch. But continuing to carry a role that makes you resentful isn't the only way to show you care. It may be time for you to step back if your partner repeatedly undermines you. Your stepchild refuses your help. Homework has become the source of most of your conflict with your stepchild. You check the portal more often than either parent. You're losing sleep over assignments that aren't even yours. You feel personally responsible for your stepchild's grades. Your partner expects you to enforce consequences they don't support or they won't support. You're doing tasks your stepchild can reasonably do. Stepping back does not have to become a dramatic announcement. You don't need to say, fine, I guess nobody cares except for me. Although, it feels good to say that in the moment. Please don't. That's not a boundary. That's resentment wearing a name tag. You can calmly say, I'm no longer going to monitor the homework. Well, don't say it like I just did. You can just say, I'm no longer going to monitor the homework portal. I need you to own that responsibility. I have a stepmom that I was coaching for the last year and a half. And she was the one that cared more than her husband and the kids' mom. And she finally just got to the point where she was like, Alicia, I had to log out. I couldn't do it anymore. I just had to stop checking the portal. It was making me crazy. You have to stop checking the portal if it's making you crazy. That final part, though, of stop checking the portal is annoyingly important. If you announce a boundary and keep doing the task, nothing has changed, right? So if your partner wants you to manage homework but refuses to support you, you don't have a homework problem. You have a partner problem. You can't be responsible for an outcome you aren't allowed to influence. You may need to say, I can't continue being responsible for homework when I don't have your support. Or, I won't enforce a rule you won't back up. Or, I'm willing to help, but I can't replace your role as the parent. Your partner may avoid homework conflict for several reasons. They may feel guilty. They may have a limited time with their child and not want to spend it enforcing schoolwork. Your partner themselves, they may dislike conflict. Maybe they're a peacemaker. They may believe their child should manage it independently. They're old enough to do this by themselves. I shouldn't have to tell them. They may simply have different academic priorities from you. Those conversations, though, those issues deserve a real conversation. But your partner's discomfort does not automatically turn homework into your job. Your partner cannot preserve their relationship with their child by outsourcing every unpleasant responsibility to you. Like, how freaking unfair is that? So if homework is creating tension in your home, start by defining the actual problem. Is the work not being completed? Is your stepchild confused? Are assignments being forgotten, lost between homes, or never submitted? Then decide what your stepchild can reasonably own. Match their responsibility to their age, abilities, and needs. Next, agree on your household expectations. When and where will homework happen? What needs to be completed before screens or activities or playtimes with friends? What help is available? Then assign the adult responsibilities. Who checks the portal? Who communicates with teachers? Who handles consequences? What are you willing to do? Make sure your partner leads and supports the expectations. Okay? That's a big one, because otherwise you don't have a homework problem. You have a partner problem. Allow appropriate consequences instead of turning every missing assignment into a family emergency. Sometimes you have to see your stepchild get a bad grade or not get the grade that they want because of decisions that they chose. And that sucks. And protect your relationship with your stepchild. Make space for conversations and connection that have absolutely nothing to do with school. Then revisit the plan when necessary. Your stepchild's needs may change. Schedules may change. Your capacity may change. A role that worked last semester or last trimester may not work now. You're allowed to reconsider it. Okay? Just because you make a plan doesn't mean like, okay, this is the plan and we're sticking to it. No, we can change it if we need to change it. Your homework role should not be determined by guilt, anxiety, or the fact that you happen to notice the missing assignment first. It should reflect your relationship with your stepchild. It should reflect how involved you are in their daily life. And it should reflect the support and authority your partner is actually willing to give you. You can help without owning everything, even though sometimes it feels easier to own everything than we just end up resentful, right? You can care without checking every assignment. You can encourage responsibility without rescuing. You can step back without abandoning your stepchild. Abandoning was such a weird word for me to say. You can step back without abandoning your stepchild. And you can protect your relationship without pretending schoolwork doesn't matter. If homework battles, unclear roles, and conflict with your partner are leaving you feeling alone, frustrated, resentful, like you're about ready to rip all of your hair out, please come join us inside the Stepmom Side community. This is where you can bring the situations that are difficult to explain to people who haven't lived them. You can ask questions, receive practical advice, and talk with other stepmoms who understand why something as ordinary as homework can expose every unclear expectation in your family. You don't have to keep carrying everything simply because you're capable of carrying it. Come join us and learn more at aliciacrasco.com/community. I've been saving you a seat. And if you know another stepmom who checks the school portal more often than the child's parents, please send her this episode. I will chat with you next week.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this week's episode. If anything was helpful or resonated with you, please share it on social media and tag me. I'm just at Alicia Crasco. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and a review while you're at it, that would also be really helpful. And if you find yourself struggling with your stepmom journey and you want a little bit more support without the hefty price tag of coaching, you might want to check out the Stepmom Side community, which is my own private community for stepmoms, where you get to connect with other stepmoms around the world and myself, where I hold weekly office hours and monthly group coaching. It's kind of like you have your own personal coach in your own back pocket. Again, without that hefty price tag. See you next week.